Hi there. I'm here to tell you the story of why I created Shurako and why it is the way it is. One of the projects I did right after my PhD from Oxford University was a climate change project in rural South Africa. The result of the project was great. They become the reference paper for the Nobel Prize of IPCC. However, we could not propose a solution to the village where we did the research. And one of the women in the village told me, don't just study, but do something. I remembered it. I remember the word for the rest of my life. And 2015, I founded Shurako as a think do be tank to fulfill the promise. So in the think tank, we researched scientific solution. And in the do tank, we created the implementation project and business based on our findings, like this biogas project. And in the B tank, we educate next generation with our findings and experience. And Amanda will explain more in detail. So Amanda.
Thank you, Tak, for the story. Yes, as a Shurako established in 2015, and legally it stands under two entities, one as a private enterprise for our research, consulting, and training services, as well as a nonprofit organization for our implementation project that produce tangible products such as biogas and also coffee and chocolate production. So next slide, please. Thank you. So since 2015, Shurako has done around 23 research and consulting projects with the various partners, as you can see listed there. We have had around 8 project funding clients, including European Commission, GIZ, ADB, and so many other more. And in addition to our current IKI small grant project, Biogas Initiative, funded by Carbon Offset, we also have other current projects ongoing since last year's, including the Tipping Plus and Landmark project, which explore clean energy transition and land-based mitigation technologies. And we also have another project with GIZ and ASEAN Center of Energy, which explores biogas to electricity in ASEAN region. And we also partner with Indonesian government, such as Ministry of Development and Planning, and working with local government as well, such as local meteorological office and energy agency here in Bali. Next, please. And as described briefly by Tak in DoTank, we implement our research result into a climate smart products and also implementation projects. So as you can see on the diagram on the right side, we provide a free biogas digester to coffee and chocolate farmers that produce clean energy that they can utilize for their cooking stove. You will see more in details through Fabian's presentation. And this biogas digester also produces bio slurry that can be utilized for organic fertilizer for their coffee and cacao farms. And in return, we buy their products, coffee and chocolate, and help them market their products by selling them as our Shura Cocoa and Shura Coffee that is available online. Also, we work with our local business in Bali and also starting exporting to Japan. And portion of this revenue, we allocated back to conduct climate field school for farmers to educate farmers about climate change and also climate smart agriculture practices. And portion of that, we also give it back for biogas installation to more farmers across Bali, Flores, and other parts of Indonesia, Bali. And so far, since 2015, we have installed around 31 biogas in Bali and Flores. And we also have around 11 sales partners of our climate smart product, coffee and cocoa, as you can see on the pictures, and starting to export it as well. And next slide, please. And in BTank, we share our learning journey and sustainable practices to different knowledge sharing platform. As I mentioned earlier, this climate field school, we work together with the meteorological office locally in Bali or wherever we hold the CFS. And this is also one of the capacity building measures output in our IKI small grant project. And so far, since 2015, we have conducted 10 CFS and have engaged around 200 farmers in Bali, in Flores, and most recently in Jambi, Sumatra. And to expand our knowledge sharing to a wider community, we also have been conducting sustainability training with youth in universities and high school in Indonesia and also in Japan. And we also have done sustainability training with companies such as technological companies, FMCG, and others. And recently it's all been shifted online, but we hope to open it back up next year with the local condition. And last but not least, we also do more public engagement to our online, offline events. One of them being can be online webinars with our community partners, can also be an Instagram Live to engage more youth. And we also hold an annual workshop series, which we have conducted this year. All of them were online. 3 of them was all focused on our project updates. And usually in this annual workshop series, we invite our project partners to give insights about their expertise in climate change. And one of them, back in March this year, we have also invited Florian to share his insights on the climate change project management under IKI small grant. So yeah, and last but not least, as you have seen in the introduction, our sustainable office is also based in Canggu, Bali. We have hosted around more than 100 intern alumni, or we're offline since 2015, but now all of our interns are online, kind of all over the world as well. And we also have our beloved Share community who are regularly in contact with us through events or different collaboration opportunities. So yeah, that's a bit more about what is Sherco and what we do. And maybe I'd like to jump to the next slide about who we are. So currently we are 10 full-time members. We call ourselves Giftmakers with the vision to be gift maker for the earth. And all of our 10 members, 10 gift makers, although we all have different title position, we synergize all together to work on Think, Do, Be, all in research and our business event and training activities, and also our engineering and sustainability programs. So yeah, that's a bit about Sherco, who we are, and I guess I'll pass the mic over to our GIZ Indonesia partner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amanda. That was very interesting. So many activities Sherco was carrying out. It's really amazing. So next speaker will be Mas Dodi, introducing the GIZ Explore project quickly.
Yeah, thank you, Florian. Could you go to the next slide? Yes, yeah, this is a very brief overview about the climate change topic in Indonesia. But first, I would like to give Indonesian context so that we are on the same page. Indonesia is, we have 270 million population. Is I think number 4 or 5 in the world, and we have 17,000 islands. So if you see on the map, these 17,000 islands doesn't have similar infrastructure, doesn't have similar access to good education, to public facility, and opportunity to work. So this is the situation in Indonesia, and basically to travel from one place to another place or to another island is very difficult and take a longer. For example, from the east to the west, I think we need to take more than 5 or 7 hours on flight. Yeah, so you can imagine how big Indonesia is from this map. And then we see here in the green circle, we have Bali and Flores, which is the pilot our project location of Shurko. So Bali is very famous for tourism in Indonesia, also in the world. And then Flores is rather remote islands in East Nusa Tenggara. I think this is also one of, how to say, underdeveloped province or area in Indonesia. So I think this is targeting a location which represent Indonesia. Once is tourism, which is rather developed areas, and then the second one is rather underdeveloped areas. And then about the climate change itself, we see that there is increasing trends of natural disaster events across Indonesia, and then it's ranging from a landslide, drought, floods, typhoon attacks. So many disasters are happening in Indonesia. For example, beginning this year, on the 1st January 2021, I was stuck on a flood in Jakarta. So at the time, I was taking my mom to the train station. It was in the early morning at 4 a.m. and then it was raining hard, and then actually I was trapped in a flood. So basically, I tried to find a way to navigate to the train station, but apparently it is very difficult, and then we need to find from one road to another road and find the road which can be passed by a car. Otherwise, our car will be stuck in a flood, and the engine will be broken. So even flood in Jakarta is annual events, and everyone, I think, is working hard to overcome the situation. Could you go to the next slide? Yes. And then Indonesia's commitment, I think everyone is aware that the government aims to reduce 29% of emission by 2030. And then if we check at the NDC, basically we see a significant increase from the energy sector. And this is mostly because of rapid use of fossil fuels, including coal and other fossil fuels. But we also see that the government also plan on the net zero emission, though the target is not that ambitious. And also the Indonesia also supported Global Methane Pledge, which aims for 30% methane reduction by 2030. And if we see on the data, so basically biogas contributes mostly on the methane emission in Indonesia. And this comes from agriculture, industrial waste, organic waste, and etc. Yes, and then the last point, by utilizing biogas, basically we will contribute not only in waste management or methane capture, but also on renewable energy. Briefly about our project. Our project is also funded by BMUV and will run until next year. And here we are partnering with central government such as Ministry of Energy, Bappenas, Ministry of Finance, and others. But our main partner is basically Directorate of Bioenergy. So this is, if we discuss about biogas, about bioenergy, this is very relevant to our project. And we do studies, pilot project, capacity buildings, action plan, and etc. Basically to provide the strategic options of renewable energy development in Indonesia in integrated sectors from the energy, development, climate, and also finance. Next slide, please. Yes, and why a biogas project is relevant in Indonesia? I think most of us know that the biogas is a form of renewable energy which could replace fossil fuels for electricity or direct use of fossil fuels for cooking, for example. And then biogas is also kind of waste treatment to avoid methane release to atmosphere. And the byproduct, the biofertilizer, could substitute energy-intensive artificial fertilizer. So there are many benefits of biogas, and this is a true example of a circular economy. And if we look again at the NDC, this biogas basically will contribute to two sectors. One is industrial liquid waste, mitigation, and then the energy sector mitigation. However, there is a challenge here. One is the lack of public awareness, and then the investment is rather high. And Indonesia is also high in fossil fuel subsidy for LPG, gasoline, and also coal. And there is also lack of incentives. That's why the small biogas project proposed by Shurko here is very good, because it tackles most of these challenges. For example, creating incentives by developing innovative carbon offset mechanism. This is a brief of our highlighted activities. So we develop studies for our partners on the agro-industrial waste, palm oil, biomethane utilization, and then biogas safety. And we also develop a bioenergy database and also mobile application for monitoring biogas. And we also organize many capacity buildings and outreach events. So we are also a member of task force by our government, basically to promote sustainable biogas development for direct use. Next slide, please. Yes, and this is a brief about our supports to Shurko. The first one is we provide advice on the proposals regarding the implementation phase, and then we also give input on a blockchain technical concept concerning carbon offset mechanism, because we have our IT expert on this. And then we also do exchange on utility scale biogas applications and our participation on one of Shurko's events. Yeah, I think that's a bit about Explore. Apologies for taking more time for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mas Dodi. That was also very interesting, and I'm really must say I'm very happy that in this case we were able to establish this trilateral cooperation between a large IKI project in the area of mitigation, having the technical expertise in biogas and blockchain, and being able to do the backstopping and working together with a small IKI small grants project. So this is also something we would like to copy in many cases in many other countries. So for us, it's also sort of a best practice example how we would like to proceed in IKI small grants. But now I would like to hand over to Fabian, and this is probably the most interesting part of the presentations. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Florian. Is my voice clear? Yes. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dodi and Rizky, as well, from the GIZ Indonesia team for being a big help to this project, especially in creating the carbon offset technicalities and figuring out the next steps. So today I'm here to present the project, the official project funded by IKI Small Grants, called Biogas Initiative for Agriculture in Bali and Flores, funded by Carbon Offset. To start, next slide, I'd like to speak a bit more about the background of this issue. So as previously mentioned by Dodi was talking a lot already about the national scope of the need for renewable energy mix to increase as Indonesia's NDC. Now I'd like to talk more on the rural scale and to zoom in a little bit. Indonesia is very much populated with mostly farmers, with 30% of it still relying on rural households and firewood stoves. As a fun fact, there are more Indonesian farmers than there are French people, and that, however, the reliance on these firewood stoves may also cause premature death yearly through indoor house pollution. Clearly, there are a mismatch between what the farmers are able to receive as welfare as the providers of our food daily, with the reality, as on top of this, we have livestock management that is untreated, as we have many farmers with manure that is not used. Combining these facts with knowing Indonesia's NDC, it seemed ideal to find a technology that can cater to the national needs, but also the rural needs. And this is where we see biogas digesters as a very promising technology for Indonesia. Next slide. So as a technology that only requires organic waste or manure, most importantly, which is abundant in rural Indonesia, especially owned by farmers, a technology that only requires that as input, which then outputs two things: gas that can be used and organic fertilizers, which are actually scarce during these days in the pandemic for the farmers. To us, it made sense that these are the perfect technology to scale up. But the question that kept coming back to our mind is why is biogas uptake quite slow in Indonesia? And so this is where our mission from the two European Commission projects, namely Green Wind and TransRisk, tried to answer and discovered that the main issues are two. The main underlying causes are the current solutions are too expensive and they're not as easy to maintain by the farmers. And so in the end, the second one became farmer lacked the motivation to continue using this technology. So how can we address those two issues became our main project as Sherco. So next slide. And this is where our journey began in experimenting and creating our own biogas design. So while the video can be played somehow, this is basically a snippet of how we have been trying to find our own design out of very readily available materials. As you know, cost was the main concern. And why previous biogas digesters were expensive were because they were made out of concrete and a very, very, very large size, about 6-8 meters cubic meters. And in this case, we want to try to find the right size, not too small, not too big, that could cater any farmer. And in this case, we found that is 1 cubic meter. So this is a snippet of a biogas digester in Flores Islands, and a farmer trying to cook with fish. And as this video is playing, I will explain what the materials are. We try to use these PVC bags and try to imitate a balloon so that we don't have to install this underground. How can we make it so fast, and how can we install it fast enough so that even farmers can install it themselves? This way, any maintenance and error can be managed by farmers, and no digester is left behind if there are technical issues. And this to us became most important because if once the biogas technology is already good and functioning, we also need it to last in terms of maintenance and also in terms of usability. So then this is, as you can see, fish being fried. I think we will see a live demo after, so we can go to the next slide. So this is what it looks like. For those of you who want to replicate this and create this on your own, that's the idea. We try to call our design an IKEA-like design so that we can actually build it ourselves. As you can see, it is built above ground except for the pipes. These pipes are around 4 inches and the size around enough to fit the backyard of someone or be in the middle of the farm. And the energy produced actually varies quite a bit. As with this small of a scale, it might only be able to substitute partly some of the daily activities of cooking activities. So this is connected directly to a stove, not directly to convert to electricity. But it really varies what is being inserted, and whether it's manure or food waste, and how often. And I think the record breaking was yesterday when we met a farmer claimed that they can use the gas for up to 3 to 4 hours, which is very impressive, daily out of 1 bucket a day. Some farmers may only reach the 20-minute max, but that also really depends on how often it is being fed. So next slide. So then who are we targeting and why are we targeting farmers? Going back again to the main problem, the reason we created this technology was to cater and address the issues needed by rural Indonesia that is impacted by climate change. The uniqueness of the biogas digesters technology is that it is both a mitigation technology and adaptation technology. Mitigation by first reducing methane to be released from the air, and adaptation by providing farmers with gas and organic fertilizers from what they already have. So we target those who are vulnerable to climate change, those who lack access to clean cook stoves and organic fertilizers, and sooner or later we realized a lot of these were coffee and chocolate farmers. And in the end, these farmers are also ideal for us to also scale up, because we are also able to purchase their products and market them at a higher price. So we can be also a direct linkage to the farmers, as after participating our programs, their products are climate smart. So next slide. So for the IKI Small Grants project, we are now targeting these 3 farmers at first, Pak Pulih, Pak Dudi, and Pak Dadang, is part of the farmers in Bali Island and Kintamani area. So up north, and these are 3 of the many farmers we've installed. And so I think now is the time for the next slide. We can go for a walk. I will pass quickly the mic to Okta, and then I'll continue if Okta is live.
Okay, thank you so much, Fabian, for your explanation. And is my voice clear?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm now with Ibu Ayu, the wife of our farmer, Parudi.
Kakaoanbau. Machen jetzt so einen Rundgang.
Sorry? Sorry, I cannot hear you clearly. Yes, so we are at their house right now. Currently, Parudi is not here because he is working in other place. But now we have Ibu Ayu as the representative from our farmers, and Ibu Ayu would like to show the biogas digester. Ya, ayo Ibu, kita bisa ke biogasnya. Ibu bisa ditunjukin? Oke, saya bantu video. So, yeah. Here is the biogas digester, where usually Pak Rudi and Ibu Ayu put the input from here, from this part. Oh, boleh, Bu. Okay, yeah, from this part, and then they will let and this is the feeding of the biogas digester that usually they put inside the biogas digester, which is like the waste from the fruits or from the kitchen usually. And then after a few weeks from the first installation time, the biogas digester become bigger like this, like a balloon, just like Fabian mentioned before. And then this pipe is the output, which is giving the farmers the fertilizer that he can use daily for his plants. And Ibu mungkin boleh kita tunjukin kompor. And now we're going to see the biogas stove, which is flowing from this pipe to the kitchen, right to the kitchen. Yeah, and usually Ibu Ayu use this biogas stoves every morning. So during this time, maybe it's not that much anymore, but yeah, we can try to turn it on, Ibu. Ya, boleh dihidupin, Ibu. Yeah, it's really small fire, if you can see, and it's blue. It's only the leftover for today, but tomorrow Ibu Ayu and Parudi can use it again. So yeah, usually they can use this every day for heating the food or cooking water or cooking any food. And back to Fabian. Thank you. Ibu dadah.
Terima kasih, Bu.
Thank you. Terima kasih, Bu. Matur suksma.
Okay, thank you, Okta, as well. So I'll go back to the slides. That is a quick look on one of our farmers. So that was actually a very specific biogas as well. It was one of the smallest ones we installed for him as a test for the organic waste. Parudi only inserts organic waste and zero manure. So he uses a bacteria starter that we also provide. So now I will explain the outputs of the project by next year. What you just saw at the situation, we want to make 40 of that. We want to replicate that to 40. I mean, currently we're already at the 30 mark. So by next year, we hope to already have somewhere in the 70 mark then of biogas installations. We also want to include those farmers in our biogas such as participate in our climate field school, which is essential and as part of the capacity building part. And then point number 2 and 4 is something I have not discussed at all yet, which is creating a carbon offset platform and the marketing strategy to sustain this platform. So then these are a documentation of our biogas digester installation for the IKI Small Grants last week with Pak Dadang up in Kintamani. So by the way, this is a very different design from the one you saw with Okta, because the feedstock is cow manure, while the other farmer is much smaller scale, and the pipes are from the top. The next slide. And then this is also a trip that we had to Flores Island, where I had to give quite an explanation to the farmers about the gas meter. And I think the biggest takeaway from this experience for me was the farmers don't really need to. Some farmers don't actually need to be more incentivized to use the biogas. I'm already very happy about it. That when I explained they could get extra money, they were very surprised and intrigued. But maybe some farmers not necessary. I was very impressed by the farmers in Flores. They were already, without me telling them what climate change does to them, they already know it themselves and they already know the benefits of this technology. So next slide. Yeah. So lastly, one of the most important features of this of our project is the climate field school. It really wouldn't complete without this climate field school. We've been doing it for several years with the meteorology office. And this is a clip of our climate field school first ever done in Jambi, so in Sumatra Islands. This is something we will do in this project. And this is where we teach farmers about climate change adaptation mitigation, about biogas, and how to be more resilient with the ever-changing weather conditions. So as you can see also in the next slides, we also will collaborate with local agriculture extension workers to really guide farmers through thoroughly, theoretically and in practice, on what is the best way to survive. And I believe I have been over time as well, and I think that is all. Thank you very much. I hope to answer some questions.
Yes, thank you very much, Fabian. Terima kasih. And thanks also for making possible this real-time and live impression of an ongoing project. I think that's the first time we have that. Also going out to the field and coming back, that was really nice.